This has been a roller coaster of a year for all of us, and we wanted to take this opportunity and to share with you some of our learnings from this past year. And as we worked with organizations and individuals on different projects, so we wanted to share some of the biggest takeaways for you guys.
Elena, I wanted to start with the perspective of business. There is a hero, in fact, during this year. This year is what we are usually calling the love and hate year, the 2020 year. There is a hero, and it is the people from human resources. You know what we have observed is this transition between like a kind of an underground revolution. The number of podcasts, video blogs that human resources people has produced during the last 6 months is amazing. So I've been digging a little bit in the numbers. There is 5 times more of this video content that is given from human resources people to any of us, and it is almost representing the voice of everybody. These people behind the desk, people in corporate who are, in fact, we are getting inspired by noticing that behind this human resource person, there is a human. They are open up and talking about themselves. They're talking about the ideal of a better culture, how to develop better humans. You know what? We are really proud and happy, and I hope really that this continues. I have been impressed, and by the way, I have been following some of these human resources people, and maybe the reason why finally they have opened up to the rest of us is it is because they have finally the time. Instead of doing some administrative task, now they have the time to, in fact, to refocus their to the core of what they're meant to be. And what they're meant to be is finally representing the people in corporations. Proud of what has happened, Elena.
Absolutely, yes. I think you pointed in the right direction exactly that it's just about finally recognizing, and having that time to focus on the meat of the job essentially, right? So having that time to focus on the priorities.
Mm. There are also some other things that have been quite positive specifically about the business world. Uh, Corporations are reconsidering or considering finally alternatives for change. Uh, these these alternatives are not like drastic, radical, let's change the culture in one shot, but it's like a slow movement that has started from within the organization. Uh, so initiatives in the right direction. So things that we weren't hearing before, like mindfulness at work, the reconsideration of the role of the manager to be more human-centric, uh, the acknowledgement that mental well-being is part of the equation for productivity in the workplace. Before COVID, we haven't heard about that, even though mental health has been continuously growing during these years. We haven't heard it as much as today. There is a change of discourse also about working remotely from home. Uh, at the beginning of COVID, we were listening people who said, yes, after COVID, everybody will come back to the workplace, to the office, because they need to be um, checked that the job is done. Now, in fact, there is close to 80% of the CEOs who are willing to do partially work to allow people to work remotely. And this is a big, big change. In fact, we are reaching an age of maturity in the workplace to allow this the employees to have a little bit more of control of their destiny, a little bit more of mastery on how they should be doing things in order to be successful and to be fulfilled at work. Good news.
And You know what I see also is that we're finally moving towards that proactivity. This is what it feels like. I think COVID has forced us to react, of course, and some of us reacted better than others, maybe. But I feel that now with this experience, we're looking to be more proactive about certain things, such as, finally getting to that culture where, listen, maybe remote work is the way to go, right? And finally having those sort of numbers backing up and saying actually people are more productive, and yes, they can be trusted, and our employees can work and be productive from home. So I love the proactivity push that their last year has given us.
Well, it's still this year.
Yes, still this year.
Another thing that I wanted to mention about uh, one of the learnings from this 2020 in the workplace is based on the a survey that was done by KPMG very recently, by the way, 2 months ago. One of the things that on top that we learned that in fact CEOs are panicking because they have noticed finally that the talent that they have in corporations is not enough to cope with times of uncertainty where it's very dynamic, very it's fluid, and that they were not being they have not been able to cope with the setup arrangement of having the workforce remotely and so on. And they have put as a top priority or as a biggest risk for organization is that the lack of the right talent. But another part that it was very minimal in this survey from KPMG is that 79% of people of the CEOs are saying that they have to reevaluate their organization purpose as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. So the fact that we are thinking about what is the role of a corporation beyond shareholders' value, what is the role into providing the society, what is the role into providing a purpose that is meaningful for employees, is something that is also quite positive, and it's putting us already into the right direction. So imagine that I have mentioned three things, and out of these three things, it doesn't look like so bad after all, because it is in the positive direction of how we go into an evolution into a better human.
Absolutely. And this brings us very nicely into the next part of this, which is that focus on that better human, right? So, from an individual perspective, there's been a lot of shift as well. So, with this, in the last year, there's been a lot of sort of shift in mindset for many people. So, we're looking at looking at for this new future, right? We're now reconsidering what matters. I keep seeing posts which warm my heart, honestly, in a way that people are saying, listen, I've spent 2 months, living and being with my family than I've ever spent in the last like 20 years, for example, right? So it given people an opportunity to spend a little bit of quality time with loved ones, maybe, or perhaps in an environment where they just haven't been in quite some time. And what is shown is that, hey, it gives some reflection on priorities and what's important, because it's very easy to get caught up in the world of work and just do until we're forced to stop. And I think that's what has happened. We were forced to stop. We were forced to look internally into, again, that purpose that you were talking about, right? So from an organizational side, we have that purpose, but then from individual side, this is very important as well. And we're looking at now individuals kind of reprioritizing their meaning, going from, is it all about the financial, right? Or is it something beyond that? And on top of that, when, with many individuals, unfortunately, when, we're just kind of let go of work, right? You start to reconsider what it really means to work and how do you want to work, and the opportunities that are available, because we realize that nothing is guaranteed anymore. So it's like, if nothing is guaranteed, then why don't we create those opportunities for ourselves and that sort of security? And this is where that movement towards gig economy, the freedom to work from anywhere, has also shifted, right? So especially if we're able to work remotely for the same company, do we need to maintain the same sort of lifestyle in the big cities, or can we now work somewhere else? Can we now be closer to our families?
Mm.
Right? Particularly for our cases in the Middle East, a lot, it's kind of a hub of all these international people. So it's like, do we have to be placed there, or can we now work from anywhere?
Mhm.
And finally, piece is that on the individual side, we also recognize the importance of mental well-being, and there's been a lot more focus and priority given to the health and the mind and the body as well, as a result of all of this. So again, all positive things and something we all know is important, we understand is important, but as we work, and we sort of, in a very fast-paced environment, we tend to forget. So I think it was a nice reminder for all of us to look at what's important.
Mm. This is totally right. The sense of purpose at the individual level has reason has it is more important for anybody. The mental health, it is something that it has become recognized, acknowledged by corporations, by the individual. The numbers on mental health, they are still not good, and unfortunately we see also that there is an impact even in the younger generation. I recently read a study that in England is close to 50% of students who are suffering of extreme stress in the workplace. We had already the numbers that pre-COVID it was close to 45%, and now is risen to 65%. So these are things that we need that has helped us to reconsider, in fact, the place of purpose into the human beings and into corporations. And finally, in fact, it has given us the opportunity to rethink how we should be dealing. Should we get back to the old normal that we had before? Do we dream of that normal where we were going continuously to work, attending meetings, where the prioritization of the human was a little bit less recognized? That is a big question, no, Elena?
Yes, no, I think this old normal is definitely dead. I think the new normal is going to look very different, and it's going to be continuous. I don't know if there's a new normal. I think that's also dying. I think it's a matter of what do we create moving forward, and how are we making sure we don't forget these important lessons as we continue to grow.
That's true.